Have you been experiencing internal financial struggles triggered by economic concerns? Are you feeling capped at your current income level and can't seem to realize your financial potential? Energy healer Jean Border has created an emotional freedom technique, or EFT, tapping protocol to help calm the inner voice that keeps you stressed. Claim your free copy at jeanborder.com/vow and say goodbye to those financial blockages. Welcome to another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, Energy Work to Better Your Business, hosted by energy healer Jean Border. It's not just about dreaming, it's about making those dreams a practical reality. Subscribe to us via your favorite network by visiting our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. Now, get ready. Your journey to success starts here.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Jean Border, with the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast. I have another special guest here today, the blue-haired lady, and we'll talk about the blue hair in just a minute. But I want to remind my guests who've been listening the past few weeks that some of my clients have been struggling a little bit with the economic situation here in the States. And so I've created a help for those of you who are familiar with tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique. In the show notes below, there's a link that takes you to jeanborder.com/vow. And it's just, I think, 4 rounds of tapping to help you calm down your mind a little bit so that you can choose how you're going to react in the economic situation as opposed to living in fear and making choices that may not be the best for you. But anyway, that's down below. But for today, we have a guest here that I met a few months ago, Elizabeth Watson. I want to say hello, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jean. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. So talk to the listeners about who you are and what you do and how you got to where you are.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, isn't that just the gist of it, right?
Yeah.
So I am excited to be here. I am Elizabeth Watson, as you have heard. I am a wife and a mom of 3. That's where I start because that's my main identifier. I am also a certified mindset and manifestation coach, as well as an intuitive empathic reader. And I love working with busy moms, but also soulpreneurs on getting past all of the daily grind stuff, just the efforting and the minutia we get caught into so that we can keep sight of those dream lives and businesses that we want to have. And I help you bridge the gap between where you are lost in all of that and that dream come true. My business is Surreal Dawn because I want you to be able to wake up to the dawning of your new life, this dream life. And I love to use a blend of science and spirituality to get there because I feel like the truth and the power is where those two combine. We're trying to answer the same questions, just using different lenses. So I like to incorporate both. Why not take from both pools and see what we can get?
I called you the blue-haired lady when we started. Some of the people who are only listening and not seeing you, I should explain her hair is blue. It's not that she's old and she has a blue tint. Her hair is blue. It's really cool. So what's the story there?
Well, it's funny. You should ask. It was one of those things where I got to a point where I had been a stay-at-home mom. And, I had been in corporate before then, and there's always that pressure to be a certain look and natural hair color. We've all heard it in the workplaces. And I was like, I don't have to go to an office anymore. I don't have to be beholden to anyone else's standards. What would I want to do for me? And it was kind of a byproduct of my personal journey that led me to my business and to where we are at this point in my life. I was taking steps to kind of let my inner self shine more. And I kept seeing all these people doing fun things with their hair, rainbow hair and things like that. And I really loved it. And one day I was like, why not? Why not just try it? And it's been a ton of fun to express myself through crazy colored hair. It's kind of tapping into that inner child in me that just loved to play dress up and things like that. And as a as a happy byproduct that I had no intention of. It's ended up being a bit of a branding identifier. People automatically recognize you when you've got crazy colored hair. They recognize me in public. They, comment on it. It ends up being a neat polarizing element. So like my people are attracted and the people I know I'm not going to vibe with are instantly like, okay, no, we're going to walk on by. And, you get remembered when you have that. So it's been a really entertaining, like, marketing tool as well as an self-expression.
We talk about that all the time. You meet somebody that makes you feel comfortable, that you said you just vibe with, that because the vibrations just make you attractive to each other or repel you. If
Exactly.
somebody with blue hair it's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with that person? Then I'm not your client, right?
Exactly.
Or I'm not your friend, or I'm not your bestie, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It saves so much time because you're not having to have that initial conversation before you realize, oh, we are not people who are going to be able to deal with each other. There are some integral things that are too polarizing. We're not going to be able to work well. We can't even get through small talk together, right?
Right. So that's good, actually. Helps the weed out process.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, you mentioned corporate. Why aren't you still in corporate? Why are you doing something different?
Well, because corporate was not where my heart lay. It was, I was not a high level person. I was, administrative support, and I always ended up fast tracked to more responsibilities. But it was always just a job for me. It was always just a job. It was always just to have insurance, to get the paycheck. When I had my first child, I knew in my soul I wanted to be with my child. I did not want to split my time. And in the US, especially these days, there's this crazy disparity between the income that you make and how much you spend on childcare alone, like not to mention all the other expenses that life throws at us. And I made just enough where I was taking a little bit more home after paying for an infant in childcare because that's the most expensive. But at that time, I was the one who had insurance. So it was not a question. I had to go back to work. So at 3 months postpartum, I'm leaving my teeny weeny little baby and going back to work. And with commutes, I was gone for 11 hours. And it was soul crushing. There's no other way to describe it. It just ripped a piece of me out. And, I'm going to this job every day, missing my child, pumping during work, all of the things, and then trying to race traffic to get home just to get those few precious minutes with her. And it was awful. And we had already decided that we were going to try and transition me out as soon as my husband was in a better position. And then we got pregnant with our second. And at that point, I would have been making negative income. Despite pay raises and all of the jazz, I would have made negative income. So I would have been losing money to pay someone else to take care of my child while I went to work. And there are some people who identify through their jobs and they need that to be their best selves and to be the best parent they can be. And there's no shame or blame in that. That was not me. I wanted to be with my babies. So I happily left that and went to being just mom. And as any parent can tell you, working or not, just mom is a very big job. Oh, that took up a lot of my time. And it's only just recently that I've been able to carve out this for myself, this business, this career, this passion and calling.
So what is it that you were led to do?
Oh, that is a fun question. Because this came at a time in my life where I was not ready for it. So if anybody can identify with having this dropped in your lap and being like, oh, no, this is not, give me a couple of years. And the universe says, no, now. Let me tell you. So when I first wanted to have children, I found out that I had some medical conditions that were going to make conception difficult or impossible. And I knew there was only so much I could control in all of that, and stressing about it was going to make it worse. But I could control my nutrition and my fitness. So I went on my first health and fitness journey. And on that, I lost over 100 pounds, maintained that loss through both pregnancies, and found a whole new level of self-worth because of mindset. The mindset was bigger than anything I did in any other capacity. And I was in a really amazing place in my life. Then I failed to set boundaries with someone. and they sabotaged all of the mindset work, all of the self-worth I had done. And it all just cascaded. Dominoes fell. And I gained all the weight back and then some. I ended up in more than 6 years of a severe clinical depression. And because of various reasons, therapy and medication weren't an option for me. So I stayed there a lot longer than I would have liked. And in the process of coming out of it, I was using these mindset tools again. I finally got to a place where I could get out of the weight of it and start to do the things I had learned that would make it better. And one of them was my physical appearance, getting clothes that I felt comfortable and maybe even beautiful in, that felt like me, not just whatever I had that fit. Doing things with my hair, doing the little things that made me feel better on the outside that started to help me feel better on the inside, and then using that interrelated. And got pregnant with my third child, went through a rough pregnancy and traumatic birth experience. And in healing from that, my intuition up-leveled, like it unlocked on this whole new amazing level and became part of my healing and journey to get back to my spiritual side. And that's when all the messages started coming in, that this was an amazing gift that was not just for me, that I needed to share it. And oh, wait, it's not just going to be reading for people, as cool as that sounds. No, you're going to bring in all of this mindset stuff and healthy life balance stuff that you learned during your health and fitness journey and coming out of depression. And you're going to put it all out there for people who are like you. And I said, oh my gosh, yay, that sounds amazing. Let me get this baby a little more grown up and these other kids a little more self-sufficient, and I can throw myself all in. And then the universe said, no, 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 no. You're doing it right now. And you're going to trial by fire all of these techniques so that you can show that it works in the most extreme conditions, so that people know and can identify and can do it in whatever their situation is, whatever the business is, whatever the life situation is. Make it work, make it practical, and show them as you go through the mess that this is possible.
So now you work with clients.
Yep. Now I work in, I primarily have a hybrid program that's part group coaching, part one-to-one support. And it's called Craft Your Mindset. It's a 12-week experience that works with the 3 pillars that I found that really make it possible to get your head and your heart and your energetics all in the right place to make whatever you want happen for your personal life, for your professional life, for your family. And it's all about belief as a foundation. We all know that those limiting beliefs, that imposter syndrome, the scarcity mindset, the I'm too old or young or I don't have enough credentials, how that holds us back from even trying to get started. So you may as well just start there, because otherwise you'll find ways to self-sabotage throughout the entire process. So I work with my clients on getting really solid on what those things that are nagging at them and how we can start to shift them. Not make them go away, because nature abhors a vacuum, but shift them into something that's empowering, that moves us forward, that gives us possibilities, that helps us reclaim our power to do these things, because we are amazing creatures who have the power of creation in our hands. And we let ourselves get conditioned out of believing that. So we're going to start there, and we build those up and get all sorts of tools to work on that. Then we move into the second stage, which is empowerment. And that I like to think of as the structure, the framework. And this is where that whole self-healthy life balance comes into play. We work with my clients on identifying what their unique life balance looks like. When it's in the healthy and aligned way, what does it look like for them? What do they need physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, financially, all of the things, right? Because any one of those, as I found out in my own personal journey, if it starts to wobble or topple, it's going to knock everything else down. By that same token, getting one standing upright can start to support the others. So we identify their own personal balance, and then we start to brainstorm, how do we make this work? And even more importantly, how do we proactively prevent that wobble from being a topple, right? How do you get in front of it so that it doesn't have to be this pickup game all the time? No more 52 card pickup. And from there, it's really easy to move into the transformation stage. And this is where we get to bring in the universal law of action. We get to set the goals and the scheduling and all those things that work really well, get accountability set up so that you can really take this far, and just let the universe do its part in manifesting all of these things, because you have shown that you're ready, able, willing, and doing your part. So now it can bring in the rest of it. The law of attraction can do its part. And it's so fun because it's infinitely repeatable, right? Like this process is just, you do it over and over and over again, because that's the way I'm living my life now.
So I come to you and I join your program. What's one of the first trip ups that I'm going to run into? What do you hear a lot when you work with people? What stands in their way of them actually taking steps?
Well, it's fun that you should ask that, because it's the belief stuff. That's why I start there. I mean, let's just dive into it right now, because this is what's going to make you, this is where all your excuses are going to come from. This is where all your reasons not to are going to come from. And it's going to be like, oh man, I really don't have that money. I can't, or I don't have the time for this. Like, I'm already on overload. I don't have the time to sit here and watch videos and do worksheets and work on myself. And the problem is, as any entrepreneur can tell you, starting a business is the most intensive self-development journey you will ever go on. It will stretch you and challenge you and change you, whether you're ready for it or not. And it's going to ask you every single day, are you sure you want this? Are you sure you're ready? Do you want it enough? So you may as well look inward and ask those questions, proactively. Let's just start there. And we got to get past those excuses, because the more energy you give the excuses, the less you have for working on your business, for putting yourself in alignment, for getting yourself out there and inviting in all of the success and amazing things that you're going to be able to do if you just get out of your own way. And so, as almost every motivational speaker or self-development professional will tell you, we're going to connect with your why. We're going to connect with, why do you want this? Why do you want to do this business? Why do you want to show up every day, even when it's not sexy or fun, even when you're exhausted, right? Even when you're frustrated and it feels like nobody in the world is spending money on anything, so why should I even bother? Well, why did you start in the first place? Clear the clutter, clear the noise, and get back down to why. Was it just for a paycheck? Because you can find that almost anywhere, and with a lot less stress than running your own business. But I guarantee you that's not why. The money, yes, we want it, we need it. It's a natural byproduct of the whole thing. And we don't need to be ashamed of that. I am not ashamed to admit that I am on my track for 7-figure business. That is where I'm heading. 7 and multi-figure business is where I want this to go. I don't have shame in saying that out loud, because it's directly related to the impact in the world I am making and the legacy I am building. That is one of the things my guides keep talking about, is just legacy. So why? Why did you start this? Why did this come to you? Why is it on your heart and your mind? You need to know that, and you need to connect with it deeply. Not the money, but what does the money do for you? What is that going to mean for your life, for the people in your life, for the people you're working with? Why do you want this?
And that is typically, I'm smiling because typically when you ask the question, the answer is because I need the money and because I want to set my own hours and I don't want to work with my terrible old boss or the toxic environment. It's always reasons related to getting away from something, and not often related to what will feed your soul and what you really want to grow. Because we focus on the needs first, right? I need the income. I need to pay my bills. I need to support my family. That's the immediate need. And that will propel you so far. But once you've hit that absolute minimum threshold, now what's going to hold you? What's going to drive you forward? What's going to help you grow your business? What's going to keep you in business when you look at all the expenses that go along with being in business and you're like, I'm putting out all this money. Well, you would have to put out money even in a job. You're just used to your employer putting out that money behind the scenes that you aren't aware of. So it's always a necessity. You just you didn't know what you didn't know. So
Right. Well, and when you're working for someone else, you have expenses that you just gloss over. Like you have to maintain a certain wardrobe, or you know, to buy specialized clothes to show up to whatever position you're in, wear and tear on a vehicle or public transit that you're constantly having to do, and you know, paying for the food that you're going to have to eat because you're going to eat anyway, but you probably eat differently when you're at the office for whatever reason. You know, any supplies that you need that you are using personally to get yourself there, professional development. And let's not even talk about the time, right? The time we spend on commuting, the time that we spend trying to prep ourselves for getting into work or detox after work, right? That takes so much. That's the stuff we don't talk about. That's the sneaky time that's stolen from us because of being in this 9 to 5 grind the world has put us into. And there are so many expenses that we just don't look at because it would make us cry. So you're gonna put the income, you're gonna put the expense investment in whether you're working for someone else or working for yourself. And it's a question of, do you want to put all of that into building someone else's dream and giving someone else time freedom, location freedom, you know, the freedom to do what they want when they want? Or do you want to do it for yourself? And yes, if you choose for yourself, there's going to be a slog. It's going to be a hard road. And you are going to be forced to look at parts of yourself that you would never have to if you were working for someone else, because you are your business. It begins and ends with you. And so if you're okay with that, if you're ready to do that, or you're ready to try and maybe get some support around that, then it can be the most amazing thing. But it is still going to be an investment of time, money, energetics, and your heart.
also, you mentioned something earlier that I want to get back to. It's also going to require you to develop the skill set of setting boundaries. When you're an employee, your boss does that for you. You will be at work during these hours. You will perform these duties during these hours. You will have this type of interaction. You will have this type of wardrobe. You will have this type of attitude. Whatever it is, you will learn these skill sets. When you're in business for yourself, you have to decide how much of your time you're going to give away to your clients, prospective clients. You have to set boundaries as to how much access they will have to you outside your specific limited amount of time that you put on your calendar. You have to set boundaries that, yes, at this time, I will be at my desk working on XYZ, as opposed to sitting out on the couch watching whatever game is on or whatever, right? So it's a different skill set of keeping yourself motivated and focused and determining what works best for you, whether that's you will work hard in the morning hours or you will work hard in the afternoon hours, whatever suits you, the way your brain works, the way your physiology works, the way your family works sometimes, right? The boundary setting
Absolutely.
is a skill set that you have to learn, that a lot of people have to learn.
Yeah, it is. It is a huge element, and you're required to set boundaries with yourself, right? Like the boundaries that you set with your clients, your prospective clients, if you have teams that you're pulling into things, those all are incredibly important, and they're necessary for the health of your business as well as yourself. But the boundaries that you set for yourself, those are the ones that are a struggle, because you wouldn't walk into an office situation and in a single day be expected to be the receptionist and then the HR professional and then the marketing executive and then the COO, right? And then the accountant, and right, and the hiring manager. You wouldn't have to do all those things. But in a small business, you are everybody. You are all the things until you get to a place where you can start to build a team. And we dream about that, right? Like that is, oh, and I can outsource.
But yes and no, because that requires the skill of delegating or letting go and letting an expert take over something without you being over their shoulder all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be really hard too.
Yeah, because this business is your baby. It's something you created. It is as much as it's the closest thing you can come to birthing and raising a child, short of doing that. because you literally give this thing life. You give it a life of its own. You raise it past its infancy. And when it's starting to like get ready to school age and you're starting to bring other people into that, then you know, oh, now I have to be discerning about who's going to touch my baby. And can I really trust that they're going to do the right things with it? And well, do I really want to do that, or do I want to keep it all to myself, even though it's killing me? Right? Like I need to let go. So it's every stage will challenge you. And that's where, like you said, the boundaries need to come into play. You need to be able to set boundaries with yourself, right? This is the time I'm willing to work. This is what, you know, I did not leave that job, that 9 to 5, so that I could spend 24/7 plus working. You know, there's a stage where that is maybe non-negotiable. And then there's a stage where you just set that habit, you set that precedent, and you're just going to keep going because you're convinced if you do, everything will work out. So be real with yourself. Here's where that balance thing comes back that I work with people on for this reason, right? Be real with yourself. Is this really going to move the needle, or are you just killing yourself and alienating yourself from your life for the sake of habit? You need to be clear and set those boundaries with yourself. You know, I am having weekends off, or by 5 o'clock, everything goes on do not disturb, and anything that's needing me will pick back up at 8 or 9 a.m., right? And that's hard.
Most of us like to believe that we are the end all and be all, and nothing will work if we are not there every minute. When really, it would probably be much better if we did take a break and come back in with fresh eyes, fresh attitude, understanding that the reason I did this was for my family, but I'm not spending any time with my family because I'm focused on this, because in the future, maybe I'll get to spend time with my family. Yeah, all your family sees is that you're gone. Whether you're gone in your office or gone with an employer, you are not present. And so being aware of how your lack of boundaries, lack of scheduling, your belief system, I'm going to go back to that because that's really what it is, I must be there, impacts everybody around you.
It truly does. And it's more important than ever before nowadays, because we have the power of the entire internet in the palm of our hands, and we are constantly connected to it. So we have to be really disciplined with ourselves, because we can, and I've done this, and there are days where I have to stop myself, and there's going to be still days when I have to stop myself where I am just connected 24/7. And my kids literally have to take my phone out of my hand to get me to look them in the eyes. And that's when I know, oh, I have let something slide. It's time to get real serious about this. And like you said, the scheduling becomes a huge component of that. And this is something that I do work with my clients on for that very reason, because when you're in a 9 to 5, right, your employer sets your day. They set your schedule. This is when you're going to have your lunch, and this is how long it's going to take, and this is when you show up, and this is when you clock out. And some will push that, but most of the time it's very regimented. So why would we not show up that way for our own careers, right? Why would we let it be okay that we're working into the wee hours of the night, or we're spending the whole weekend, every weekend, over and over and over again on this? There's no one who's going to stop you from that. There's no one who's going to pull you back. You're not getting paid overtime. And if it hasn't already run you into the ground, it is going to long before you're going to see infinite rewards for that. And the problem that drives us in this is old paradigms, right? Like we're adopting that grandparent era, like the Great Depression era of the harder you work, the more you'll get, right? We've all been conditioned into that because that was true maybe in the 40s and 50s, possibly even still in the 60s, but it is progressively less and less true. And there are numbers that they're charting to show this. The amount of effort that Americans put into the work that we have is not reflective in the income that we make. Our productivity has been proven to be going up and up and up because we have all of these amazing technologies that make us capable of doing so much more. And yet we're not getting to take a step back or relax any. Our income is not reflective of that increased productivity and the fact that we're doing it all the time. So you need to be the one. You need to be the one to set your schedule. And it can be yours, right? It doesn't have to look like a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. If that doesn't work for you, maybe you're the night owl and you're going to be really productive while your kids are sleeping, or, while your friends are out partying. Maybe that's the time where you can just sit. Or maybe you're like up with the sun and you are just working. But by like 10 or 11, you're done. Your brain shuts off. Honor that about yourself and build the schedule that is very self-aware, that allows you to do your best work. And when you know you've hit that part, stop for the love of all that's holy. Stop. And I'm speaking to myself as much as anybody else here, because it's too easy to just be like, okay, there's one more thing. There's one more thing. Let me just finish this one thing. And then that migrates into 15 others. Have you found this for yourself? So set the schedule. And this is one thing that my own business coach talked about is, have you ever noticed how when you tell a kid to go clean their room, they're going to clean their room at the pace you give them. So if you give them 15 minutes, they'll take 15 minutes. It may not be the best job, but they'll take 15 minutes. If you give them an hour, they're going to take an hour to do the same job. The same is true for us. I'm sorry, it is. Like if you give yourself 15 minutes to write an email, you will write an email in 15 minutes. Maybe it's not your best work, but you could come back later and spend 5 minutes editing it. Whereas if you give yourself an hour, you're going to agonize over that thing for an hour. So it takes trial and error to feel out where you are with that. You'll also have to reevaluate as your skill set increases and you get more competent at it. But try setting yourself these time limits so that you can maximize on what you're doing and still have time for the life you want to live outside of this business.
I follow along with various coaches, but Brendan Burchard, you've probably heard of him. And one of the things he does when he goes into a new business and people say, oh, yes, this is important and this is important, he says, show me your schedule. And he says, the schedule tells you everything. If it's not written down in your, or typed in, whatever, however you keep your schedule, and showing up on your schedule, it's not your priority. It may be in your head, but it's not in your actions, right? So that's something I tell my clients. That you think you're spending time with your family, put the date night on the schedule. Oh, but we go out. Well, then their spouse tells me something totally different, right? So it's in the head, but it's not showing up in the actions. Something else that you mentioned earlier that brought to mind one of the activities I'll sometimes have my clients do, and I do it with the ones that I know it's going to be really hard. So it's like, write out your ideal day, whether it's your ideal work day or ideal, if they're having problem relaxing, what is your ideal day? But that requires them to think about, do I work better in the morning? Do I work better in the afternoon? Do I work better in an office situation? Do I work better sitting on the back porch looking at nature? Right? We all have different ways that we work. And so understanding what nurtures you while you work, what allows your brain to open up and work more efficiently and more creatively. Awareness is the first part of so many things. For me, I work with clients with becoming aware, then becoming focused on what it is you really want. Not what you don't want, but what you do want. And then what strategic actions do you need to take to get you there? And so much of that goes around, oh, but this, oh, but that. Anytime you say, oh, but, there's a belief behind it that you need to address, which is part of the first part of your program, right? Is listing the beliefs that are keeping you stuck, keeping you not excelling as quickly or as easily as you know is possible somewhere. You just don't know how to get there.
Yeah, it's so true. And you were talking about that awareness being so key and focusing on what you do want, not what you don't want. That's the thing that so many people get messed up when it comes to manifestation and law of attraction is, we say it's not working. It's just not working. You're manifesting all the time. You absolutely are, because you are thinking, breathing, taking in all the time. And there's a part of your brain, we've all heard about the reticular activating system, right? This is the manifestation center of your brain. It's the focus center of your brain. What you tell it, what you feed it is what it is going to notice. So if you tell it, yeah, I'm going out with my family all the time, it's going to notice that. Whereas your husband and kids are like, we haven't gone out in a month. I don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, yeah, we maybe had 15 minutes of game night and then you got a phone call and had to duck out for the rest of the time, right? So our perception is what makes our reality, but it is ours. It is unique and individual to us. And it doesn't mean it's the reality for everybody else. So that is humbling to accept. Like, we are responsible for our reality. And if we're focusing only on, okay, this is not working, there's nobody buying, none of the messaging I'm doing is landing, right? Like, nobody's listening. I don't even know why I'm showing up. Then that is going to perpetuate. You're going to find more evidence to support that because the brain wants you to be right. It always wants to be right. So it's going to find everything it can to show you that, yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right. Versus if we just make the little flip to, okay, today I'm going to try something new, or I am going to notice all of the ways that this did work. Like, I got that comment from that one person and it really changed their day, right? Or this person noticed me. I was out and about and they noticed me from my social media. Oh my gosh, something's working. The more you feed into that, the more that's going to be what you notice. And could you just imagine how, if that's what you're noticing, the energy, right? The energy that continues to perpetuate, the way that feels lighter, more expansive, more energizing to you. So you get to make the choice, but you have to be self-aware enough to do that. Then you choose. I'm going to focus on what's going wrong and what's hard and what's heavy, or am I going to focus on the things that are working? No matter how small, no matter how seemingly insignificant compared to the things that feel like they're not working. Because when you focus on this, regardless of what you're manifesting right in this moment, you just feel better. You show up in better ways for yourself, for your family, for your business, for your clients, for the world. And who are you going to be more attracted to if it comes to investing in, in healing, in guidance, in coaching, in whatever it is that you're being called to do? Are you going to be attracted to the person who's like, yeah, well, putting this out there, but you're probably not listening. So, put a like on this if you actually see this, because the algorithm's it's just hiding me. I'm ghost banned. Or the person who's like, I talked to the most amazing person today. I just got to have a beautiful conversation with this amazing person, and we both walked away with smiles on our faces, right? Like, that may not have been a paying client. Maybe you just ran into somebody in Starbucks, but who are you more likely to want to go to? So you got to be aware enough to put that out there, to be in that space and stay in that space and check yourself when you're not. And this is where having a community, accountability partners, a mentor, a coach is going to come in so handy to catch you before you go down that rabbit hole and to pull you back. Like, no, but remember that email you just got from that client who you just changed everything for, or that person who you just gave so much relief to.
There's this old saying that I tend to fall back on it when I've got a client who's kind of like stuck in their head. What you believe to be true is true for you. It may not be true to your spouse who's feeling neglected, but you may feel that you are focusing on the marriage or the child or the business situation or whatever it is, right? But if you believe that to be true and don't look at how other people are reacting to the situation, there's no reason for anything to change, because the belief drives our future actions.
And even more than that, and this is a reason why I talk about belief first, foremost, and most often, is the reality is that, the phrase that Tony Robbins and everybody makes really trendy is, where focus goes, energy flows. Right. There's truth to it. Okay. It's catchy because it's true. And the science has proven now that more than 90% of our daily activities are unconscious. They are the autopilot. We don't think about brushing our teeth. We don't think about washing the dishes. We don't even think about driving to the places we go most often, right? Like, you don't think about driving home from the grocery store or from work or from the kids' school or wherever it is. You just do it. How many times have you gotten out of the car and been like, can't actually remember most of that drive? You just do it because our brains are highly efficient. They are efficiency engines and they will automate as much as possible. The trouble there is that the autopilot is based solely off of what you believe, solely off of what you tell it is possible and what you are and how the world works. So if your autopilot is programmed to go towards the same and you want something different, 90% of what you're doing in a day is going to be same because that's what the autopilot believes. It doesn't know to question you. You have to reprogram it. You have to get into those beliefs so that even the things you're doing unconsciously are moving you forward. And then you can bring in the conscious and the mindful, like, okay, so I can't do much about brushing my teeth. I'm just going to do it. But what if while you were brushing your teeth, you were visualizing that ideal business, that amazing client, inviting them in, putting that energetics out there? What if while you're washing the dishes, you are manifesting this amazing business, or you're repeating your why, your business affirmations, your mantras? What if you stack all of that stuff up? And this is something I work with my clients because it's so powerful, because you don't have to make more time for that. You just include it. And then you are both reprogramming the autopilot and getting your energetics in the right place and inviting in more of what you do want.
I think Tony Robbins calls it net time, no extra time. You're already doing something, just add, to use your word, stack something else onto it. You've already got the habit built up. It's very easy to add one step to an already existing habit than it is to create a whole new process and learn everything, the new process, and make it automatic. So that's it brought up a memory when I learned to muscle test, because some of the modalities that I use require you to muscle test. It's a binary process. It's this or it's that. One of the suggestions they made was when you set a procedure so that every time you walk through a door or get on an elevator or have to go up or down steps, you practice the muscle testing. And you set that in your brain that every time I walk through this specific door, I will practice a round of muscle testing. And so it kicks in your head. And if you don't do it, you feel guilty, right? Because you've not completed the process that your internal engine wants you to complete. So it can't turn the key off of the car because the car has to still run until you finish that process. So that's pretty funny. But I'm very good at muscle testing now. So
right. And it just finding those pockets of time where you're already doing something, right? You wouldn't be able to be writing an email while you're brushing your teeth, usually. Probably not a good one. Right? Like, you can't take a phone call while you're in the shower. Please don't take a phone call while you're in the shower. Like, no matter how efficient
people brush their teeth in the shower to save time. So you could.
Right. Yeah. But it's easy to get your energetics in the right place. And so maybe you're brushing your teeth in the shower right before you're going to sit down and write that email, or right before you're going to get on a discovery call, or right before you're going to have a client session. Isn't that the most amazing time to get your energy in the right place, to get your head in the right place, to do it mindfully so you show up as the business owner you want to be, as the person you want to be? And you can do this in your personal life as well, so that you show up as the family member you want to be. These are the tips this is why mindfulness is so important. This is how getting conscious about what we're doing is so powerful, because from there, everything else flows.
What is one of the most common limiting beliefs? I'll just call it beliefs that people come to you with that really don't necessarily serve them well?
Well, let's be real. Limiting beliefs don't serve anybody well. They're basically a byproduct of the primitive mind that, and venturing outside that cave means you could get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. We don't have that problem anymore, thankfully. But suddenly speaking in public feels like there's claws and teeth coming at us, right? Suddenly sending that email feels like we're going to have to hunt for food for the next, or we're going to die. It's our brain reacting to our modern world based off of primitive settings. And so the limiting beliefs, the biggest ones are just, I'm not worthy. There is so much of a refrain, whether it's in business or family or relationships or finances. I am not worthy is at the root of so many of them. And it's one of the hardest ones because only you get to decide what worthy is. It's completely subjective. And it comes from so many different stories in our lives that were told to us to help us be functional human beings in a world where we have to work together. We need to take some of these things to account. We need to be kind, do unto others as you would have done unto you, and all of that stuff. And yet the unintended consequence of those stories and the experience that we have is there's this, I'm just not a very good person. I am not worthy of this. I am not enough for this. And that refrain comes out in so many ways. And if that is the core, that is the root of what your heart and mind believe, then whatever you try to do, you will find ways to self-sabotage. You will find ways to show up in that not worthy energy. Because if you don't feel you're worthy, then why would a client feel you're worthy of their time and their trust and their money?
Yeah, I don't deserve. I didn't work hard enough to deserve it or to earn it, right? We're always typically, a lot of us, I get away from absolutes because I don't, there's that just, that's a whole other story. But typically we tend to live in a world of self-judgment. And there's always something that we could have done differently to make the outcome different or better. And so this self-judgment, self-criticism is rampant, but the celebration and the awareness of what we did right falls short, right? Because we don't pay attention to that because that's done. We already did that. But look what else I need to improve. Look what else I need to do better. Look what else I did wrong. That self-criticism, self-judgment, I didn't deserve it because I must have done something wrong. I did all the right steps, but it didn't work out the way I wanted. So there must be something I did because I control the world, right?
Well, and we're culturalized and socialized into that. It's this systematic process that happens to us. Because when you think about it, you graduate high school. Congratulations, you spent the last, 15 to 18 years of your life working on getting through this. So what college are you going to? Or what trade are you going to get into? You graduate college. Congratulations, you just spent all this money and time on this degree. What job are you going to have? Right? You get married. Congratulations, you found the partner for the rest of your life. You're in love. When are you going to have babies? There is never you get 5 seconds to feel good about it. And then it's, and next, what's coming next? And that is the way the whole system is designed. And it's so flawed because it worked. Like, if we can't even celebrate these big monumental wins, how do we celebrate the little wins? And if we're never celebrating the little ones or the big ones, then we're just constantly striving and efforting, and we never actually get to that moment, right? We never get to that golden retirement where we get to travel and have fun and garden and do the things, all the crafts and hobbies that we've been putting off. We never get to spend time with the family on that vacation that we spent 6+ years saving up for because we're so stressed about what we have to do when we get back. We just completely condition ourselves out of being able to appreciate and enjoy a moment. And that is another thing I work with my clients on in the final stage in transformation, because you need to give yourself those wins. You need to celebrate. And it is something that I do with my clients, with my contacts. Like, I have all of these coaches that I talk to, and they get off a connection call and they're like, they signed up. And I'm like, good, that's amazing. that's so great. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, my goal was to get 5 clients this month, but I did just get 1 client, and that is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that we need reminding of that, but we do. And the more we get into that place, the more we get into that celebration of the little and then the big and then the bigger, the more amazing it is and the more motivated we are, right? And we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, how the motivation to get away from the things we don't want, the motivation of pain is short-lived. We will only be motivated by the pain impetus until the pain stops or until we forget, and then we'll revert. Whereas if we're pleasure-based motivated, then that is really sustainable, and that's going to push us far longer, far bigger than just trying to get away from the things we don't want.
One of the things that people sometimes need to be aware of when they go into business is, I'm going to use your example. Well, I only got 1 client and I wanted 5. So if I grab that shiny object over there and I just learn that skill, maybe that'll get me the 5. Rather than understanding you just found something that works. Fine tune that, repeat that. Don't go grab something totally different until this is working the way you want it to work, right? The shiny object syndrome is rampant in this country, at least, right?
It really is. If I just learn how to be better at LinkedIn marketing, or if I just learn how to work with SEO, or if I just get 1 more certification, right? That'll be the thing. If I just figure out how to do ads, I mean, I'm not making enough to really make it make sense, but if I just figured out ads, I would absolutely be there. Okay, but your messaging isn't even working. So even if you dumped all this money into ads, it would literally be throwing it away. Like, yeah, it's so easy. It's so easy because it's really easy to be like, oh, well, that's why it's not working, right? When you need to slow your roll, reconnect with why you're doing this. And then ask yourself, am I already at capacity? Because maybe your energy is stretched so thin, you can't have more clients because you're already maxed out, right? Like you're advertising on 15 different platforms, you're sending the emails, you're talking in public, you've got a webinar going. You can't even find a second for yourself to breathe. So how could you take on another client right now? The universe isn't going to give it to you because you're going to self-destruct.
And that's kind of important, is to understand that there's a learning curve involved. Maybe you need to learn with the 1 client before you jump in with 5 and not really feel comfortable with all of them because you haven't even gone through the entire process with 1 yet, right?
Absolutely.
So there's something to be said for the experience. Just because you took a class doesn't make you the expert. I'm sorry, it really doesn't. I've taken 1 million classes. That doesn't mean I'm the expert in XYZ. That means I got a nugget of information out of that class that I needed, that helped me in growing my skills or being confident in my abilities, being aware of possibilities of what could go right or could go wrong. Sort of like this podcast, if people are paying attention, we mentioned so many things that small business owners should be aware of, and is that me? Is that something that a trap that I fell into? Am I going for so many certifications just to slow my roll so I don't have to take on clients and feel uncertain that maybe I don't know what to do for that particular client, right? So now,
because my imposter syndrome is rearing its head, because I'm scared of actually being successful because I have all these money stories, because, right? Like there's so many things. It's a deep, dark rabbit hole, but that's why it's important, like you said, to be aware. And like, that's why I start with the belief stories, because it all comes back to that.
well, looking at the clock, we are at the end of our time together. But before we take off, I wanted everybody to know that you've got a resource for people to work with you or to get some additional knowledge. Tell us about that.
Thank you for asking. I'm so excited to share this with your listeners. So if you are someone who's interested in the energetics and manifesting this business and the life that you want, I would love to give you my free 3-minute manifestation hack. So this is a quick little download PDF that you can get that is a really powerful tool. It is one of the things I work with my clients on, and it's going to guide you through this really powerful process of using your own phrases. You can call them mantras, affirmations. I talked to a hypnotherapist who said, these are hypnotic suggestions, actually. So it's just a really powerful way to, like we talked about, the net, the note, no extra time, the stacking. And it's going to walk you through this process that I have learned and used and watched be successful over and over again. So that is available for you with the link, and it has ways to contact me.
Cool. And that will be right down below in the notes. All you have to do is click on the link. It'll take you right there. We've covered so much, but there's so much more to talk about, obviously. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
Well, thank you for asking, Jean. And yes, the biggest thing I want you to take away from this conversation, if nothing else, is tying back to that main limiting belief that people have. You are worthy. Okay, you are infinitely worthy. You are here in this time and this space. You have been given this concept for a business, this passion to go for it for a reason. That is the universe telling you what your path is. And if you have doubts about it, those are probably stories that are just running around in your head, rabbit holing, telling you you're not worthy or you're not good enough or you're not capable, because that's the primitive mind trying to protect you. That is fear talking. You are worthy. You are capable. You are important. And the work that you are doing matters. People need what you are trying to do. So please don't limit yourself. Please don't hold yourself back. If it is a struggle for you, get support and get the help you need to make this work. Contact a business coach, contact a mindset coach, find a community that you can talk to, because the world needs what you have to offer. And you deserve to live that amazing life with this incredible dream business. And if you ever doubt it, just come back and listen to this again, because I believe it for you, and I will hold on to that belief until you are able to take it for yourself and run with it.
That was so cool. Thank you so much. And this has been my guest, Elizabeth Watson. And I want to thank Elizabeth for being here. And I also want to thank my listeners for coming back yet again for another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey podcast. Until next time.
We trust you enjoyed this episode of the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey podcast. Energy work to better your business. Hosted by energy healer Jean Border. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey.